This is the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
She has the backbone to stand up for what is right and to stand up to the powers that be, even in her own party, if the powers that be aren't doing what's right for you.
Sarah Palin serves up barbecue for Sarah Steelman in Missouri. Meantime, the governor endorses Kirk Adams in Arizona. Mr. Adams is here today to talk about the Palin support. Palin-backed Ted Cruz cruises to victory in Texas, while Deb Fischer gets a Palin visit in Nebraska, and the governor also stops in Iowa. Plus, Palin calls out another Cheney misfire. First, let's talk to Kirk Adams, the man backed by Governor Palin in Arizona's 5th congressional district race, a big GOP primary coming up, and Palin looks to play a role in it. Hi, Kirk Adams. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Sarah Palin zeroing in on the desert once again. She already backed Jeff Flake for U.S. Senate, and now she's getting involved in the House race for the seat Flake is vacating. And you, sir, are one of the candidates for that spot. What does it mean for your campaign to get a Sarah Palin endorsement?
Well, I'll tell you what, we are only one of 3 House candidates in the entire country that she has thrown her support behind so far. And it is absolutely wonderful. It was unexpected. I had sent her a letter several months ago asking for her endorsement, and Wednesday morning of this week we got a phone call saying she was providing it. And here's what it means. I mean, Sarah, there is nobody in the entire country that represents taking on the Washington insiders and the Washington establishment of both parties than Sarah Palin. And that is what our campaign is. And to have Sarah Palin give us her support and throw her weight behind us, it really puts us in a position to take on the Washington machinery and win.
You know, you and I know the power of a Palin endorsement, and soon the mainstream may pick up on it too. Some articles out of late highlighting Palin's impeccable record this year thus far. How will you use the endorsement for your race?
Well, we are all Palin all the time. Let me give you an example. Today, we made over 30,000 phone calls to the voters across this district, and we were informing these voters of Governor Palin's endorsement. They responded incredibly well. And you spoke to her track record of winning in this election with her endorsements. Ted Cruz is obviously the most recent example. We can't forget Deb Fischer. This puts a candidate like us, who the Washington establishment had written off, right back in the game. We think we're going to win this thing. Our message resonates. The voters want real change, good conservative change, and we're going to deliver it with Sarah Palin's help.
Obviously, Obamacare is something the overwhelming majority of Americans don't want. Governor Palin says one of the reasons she's behind you is she knows you will lead the fight to repeal this mess.
In Arizona, where I was Speaker of the House, just as a quick story, I became Speaker of the House by running against my own Republican Speaker, someone nearly twice my age, who had been there for a long time because he wasn't conservative enough or bold enough. And when I came into the speakership, Barack Obama had just won the presidency. And Obamacare wasn't far behind. We were the first state in the nation to pass the Health Care Freedom of Choice Act. I personally joined the Goldwater Institute lawsuit against Obamacare, and when our liberal Attorney General Terry Goddard would not join the state lawsuit against it, we passed legislation out of the House and Senate to make sure that we did. The fact of the matter is that Obamacare is the worst bill in a generation, probably longer. It does permanent damage to our Constitution, to the economy, and will make our health care worse. I absolutely am in favor of repeal of Obamacare, and I also know the damage it will do to states. It'll bankrupt many state governments if we don't repeal it. It must be job number one.
Your background, sir, one of the youngest speakers in the history of the Arizona House of Representatives. What did you learn there that you can take to D.C.?
I learned that the public, the voters, and your colleagues appreciate bold and conservative leadership. You know, it was under my speakership that we passed SB 1070. We took on card check and passed the Save Our Secret Ballot legislation that guarantees in the Arizona Constitution your right to a secret ballot in the workplace. We passed informed consent and parental consent for abortion. And when Planned Parenthood sued the state of Arizona successfully and our Attorney General would not defend the bill, I personally weighed in on the lawsuit with my own personal house attorney, and we won and shut down abortion services in 7 of Planned Parenthood's Arizona clinics. We passed constitutional carry in this state, protecting the right to bear arms. You know, these are significant, important conservative measures, and we did a lot during my speakership, including reforming our public pension system here in the state. And I think that's the kind of bold leadership, that perseverance, that steady hand that we're desperately missing in Washington, D.C.
Well, you certainly did do a lot in Arizona, and I know the governor expects more in Washington, along with the repeal of Obamacare. Governor Palin also points to other things you'll be sure to tackle, namely government spending, taxes, big government. A tall order considering what has gone on in D.C. So tell us, what is it about Kirk Adams that should give voters confidence that you'll stand up to the left and the establishment?
When I came into the speakership, Arizona had the worst deficit in the entire country. We were in free fall. The housing crisis hit our state very hard, and we were still recovering from 6 years of a Janet Napolitano spending spree. During the course of my speakership, I helped lead the effort to negotiate and pass a 30% reduction in state spending. Now, instead of a record deficit, we have a surplus. Let me tell you what's so significant about this. California, our neighbor to the west, is a state that had a very similar deficit to us. While we now have a surplus because we made the tough choices and decisions, they still have a deficit in the billions of dollars. You can't get two better examples of philosophies of governing and the role of government. We balance the budget here by being willing to make tough choices and decisions, be honest with people and tell them that what we can no longer afford. I can take that to Washington and provide that same type of leadership and tough-mindedness on budgets, because we can no longer afford the government Washington is giving us.
You have a background in business, too. Tell us a little bit about it and what skills you've learned there.
It turns out that being a small business owner is pretty good training ground for being in a political office if you learn the lessons you should. I'm a small business owner. I employ 22 people, and small business is my first professional love. And there's something about being a business owner where you sign the front of the check, not just the back of the check, and where you have to make sure that your expenditures don't exceed your revenues. It's pretty darn good preparation. Those are practical, real-world skills that Washington doesn't seem to have, and many politicians at all levels of government don't seem to understand. And as a nation, we can learn from that. We can no longer spend my kids' money and my grandkids' money to pay for our expenses today. It's critical that we change this, or my kids, all of our kids, will have a country that is less prosperous and less free. And so long as I have something to do about it, so long as all of us can do anything about it, we must. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Your state, sir, always comes up for good reason when it comes to immigration. Palin feels you're committed to securing our borders while promoting legal immigration. Can you talk about that issue a little bit?
I support legal immigration into this country. And we need to make sure we fix that system so people can come legally. But at the same time, we have a border here in our state that is substantially unsecure, despite what now Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano says. We know how to secure the border. This is not rocket science. We've already done this substantially in the Yuma sector and the San Diego sector. Now we just need to do it across the remainder of the border. It takes a physical barrier. If you want to call it a wall, that's fine. It takes more boots on the ground. It takes technology. And all of that is doable. What we lack is not the methods, we lack the political will from Washington to secure our border, and Arizona has felt the brunt of that. And we're tired of it, which is why we passed things like employer sanctions and SB 1070 and numerous other measures to try to deal with this issue. I have confidence that we can solve this problem by making sure our legal immigration system works and that we have a secure border.
It's interesting, Palin endorses Jeff Flake and you, but you've said you're different than Flake. He's the earmark guy. You've had a different approach. So what do you make of Palin endorsing you and Flake?
Well, I think Governor Palin recognizes two individuals that don't go along to get along. You know, I was a freshman legislator when I challenged my own Republican speaker, the speaker of my own party. I was a long shot. The establishment never gave me a chance. They thought I was a naive 35-year-old kid, but I won. I think you've seen that with Jeff Flake. He has consistently, when it's right, stood up even to his own party leadership. We need more people in Washington who are more interested in doing the work of a congressman than being in the building, than holding a seat, than having a chair. And sometimes doing the work means standing up, taking political risk, and doing things that can be tough. But I can't think of a time in our history where we need leaders like that more than now.
And I think you nailed it, the way Palin goes after these things. You know, she's a character person, and I think she looks at character and guts, and if you're an incumbent like a Hatch or a Flake, she'll be with you if she thinks you're doing the right thing, and if you're an outsider like Cruz, or you mentioned Fisher, and you got Sarah Steelman in Missouri, a lot of great American patriots out there. Kirk Adams, one of them. Sir, we appreciate you being here. Can you tell us your website?
Yes, KirkAdams2012.com. We're running against the Washington money. Any amount that you can give at KirkAdams2012.com, please do. We can win this race. Sarah Palin's going to help us win it. We need your help as well. If you can't give any dollars, then we can use your help on the phones. You can email us at info@KirkAdams2012.com, and the entire nation can be helpful in this race. We need your help. We ask for it. We're on our way to victory, and Sarah Palin's going to help us get there.
Kirk Adams, endorsed by Governor Palin in the 5th District of Arizona. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
KirkAdams2012.com. He is Palin-powered and ready to win in Arizona. Head to KirkAdams2012.com to learn more. This past week, Governor Palin stumped for Missouri U.S. Senate candidate Sarah Steelman in unique fashion in Cleveland, Missouri. First of all, the governor wore a Superman shirt at the event. Get it? Man of Steel, supporting Steel Man. And then these two super Americans served barbecue to every participant at the event. Before doling out the eats, Palin spoke to the huge crowd and touted Steelman's resolve to rein in spending, cut the federal budget, and repeal Obamacare.
She's not going to Washington, D.C., just hoping that she's going to get invited out for those foo-foo, she, D-cell cocktail parties, right? I don't think that's her gig. No, mine either. No, see, what we need, what she recognizes, is the need for sudden and relentless reform of government to save our country's economy and to protect our God-given freedoms. Sarah Steelman is that reformer in this race.
Steelman is locked in a very tight primary, and the vote in the Show Me State is Tuesday. Visit sarahsteelman.com to see how you can help. Governor Palin hopes to put Steelman over the top. Sarah Steelman, really a committed and classy woman fighting for us. Governor Palin has already had some success in the Senate races this primary season. Palin backed Richard Murdoch of Indiana, winning his GOP test earlier this year. Palin also supported Senator Orrin Hatch, who beat back a challenger in Utah. And now the big one in Texas this past week, where Ted Cruz secured the Republican nomination, sending Tea Partiers into a frenzy across the nation. Palin backed Cruz when his chances looked slim. He forced a runoff, and then with the governor's help, won that runoff. Very exciting times for Texas and conservatives everywhere. Another Senate hopeful that's Palin-powered is Deb Fischer in Nebraska. This past week, the governor spent some time with Fischer in Cornhusker country. The two patriots had lunch together, and Palin spoke with customers at the restaurant, talking about Fischer, calling her a hard-working, very grounded, down-to-earth, patriotic American woman. Palin went on to say Fischer knows agriculture and could help common-sense, constitutional Americans. After Mizzou and Nebraska, the Gov headed to Iowa for agribusiness leader Bruce Rastetter's summer party and cookout. Rastetter is a backer of Iowa Ethanol Ventures and a member of the Board of Regents. Finally, some more dopey comments about Governor Palin, and as you know, we usually ignore these things because why give any credence to stupidity, but this one had to be addressed because of the source. Former Vice President Dick Cheney said John McCain made a mistake in picking Sarah Palin as his running mate, even though we all know Palin energized that ticket and catapulted a very poor McCain campaign into the lead before the economic collapse sealed Senator McCain's fate. Well, instead of taking unwarranted shots from Cheney, the governor handled it in that Sarah style we've come to know so well. She said, quote, "Seeing as how Vice President Cheney never misfires, then evidently he's quite convinced that what he had evidently read about me by the lamestream media, having been written, what I believe is a false narrative over the last 4 years, evidently Dick Cheney believed that stuff, and that's a shame," unquote. A shame it is. Folks, remember, you can follow us on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, and we are now on Facebook, too, so please like SarahNet Radio on Facebook. And don't forget, the Palin Update is now on demand. So just head to SarahNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Kirk Adams, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.